What's good, you guys? Welcome back to the Garden Room Podcast. If you're new here, my name is Mari Thrower, and I'm so excited you guys are here, whether you're watching or listening, and hope y'all are having an amazing day today. And so, I'm excited about today's episode and just being able to talk about some things that's been on my heart and that I am struggling with and growing through as usual. And so, in today's episode, I want to talk about my little addiction to validation. And you guys, this is such a real topic because it is something that's honestly just kind of happened a bit over the years. And I've always been, ever since I was little, the type of girl to want to be not just validated, but do the right thing. And when I'm doing the right thing, then it's like some part of you wants a little bit of validation. And normally, starting out from a young age, you kind of get that. If you do the right thing, then you get some type of praise or some type of reward or whatever that looks like. And I remember being in kindergarten, and we had this little system in this chart where we had these green apples, yellow apples, and red apples. And my kindergarten teacher, shout out to Mrs. Pulley, still one of my favorite teachers ever. I love her. But she would color in each day, like whether it was green, yellow, or red, based on our behavior. And so the whole year I had gotten green apples. And then one day, me and like a bunch of my other classmates were all running through the hall because we thought we were running late. And we're trying to catch up with the rest of our class. And so all of us got our apples moved to yellow. And you guys, having that lack of validation for one day, I cried and cried and cried and cried. I think I was hyperventilating. I was only like 5 or 6. And I was traumatized, you guys, not like actually, but my little mind just genuinely thought, I was like, oh no, I've not been validated and I, messed up and all these different things. They had to call my mom and I had to talk to her over the phone just to get me to calm down because I felt so bad. And I never forget that day. And my teacher, she was just so sweet and just was like, it's okay. And she was just like, we just don't want you guys running so you don't get hurt. And I'll never forget, I think at the end of the day, she moved my apple back to green anyway. But long story short, I held on to that for a long time. And now it's like funny and like I laugh at it. And my parents just thought it was like the sweetest thing that I genuinely cared so much. But as I look back at my life, there's been a lot of pockets and moments where I've wanted that validation. And I didn't recognize how often I was kind of wanting to be a people pleaser or wanting validation from my friends or my parents or teachers or people at church. And of course, ultimately from God, the more my relationship with him grew, but it was starting to be dictated based off of my performance and how well I was doing. And so I thank the Lord I've had gracious parents and gracious friends where nobody made me feel like I had to meet this unrealistic expectation. They just all wanted what was best for me. But in the midst of that, though, you can start to find yourself seeking validation from the wrong source. And throughout high school and a little bit of college and even till now, it is something I've struggled with, but also grown in a lot of areas because I've been able to see that my source of validation has to come from God. And the more that things keep changing throughout this world and throughout our society, we have to know where the source of our validation comes from. Because if not, I will find myself addicted to a whole lot of wrong sources of validation. And it's beautiful that we get to be validated by the King, by the Creator, by God. And the more and more I've tapped into that source, the more I find everybody else's voice, everybody else's opinion, everybody else's thoughts, although I value them, they don't define me at the end of the day. Only God does. So I want to read you guys this verse out of Galatians 1:10. This is my guy, Paul, speaking, and he says, am I now trying to win the approval of human beings or of God? Or am I trying to please people? If I were still trying to please people, I would not be a servant of Christ. And I think this verse is such a good reminder to help us to seek the validation of Christ and Christ alone, having an audience of one. And it was a really good reminder for me to say, if I'm really trying to be a servant of Christ, it's not just about pleasing people all of the time. Yes, am I called to love people? Absolutely. But people pleasing cannot be the first thing on my list when I wake up in the morning. It has to be about pleasing the heart of God because people change. Things change, people change their feelings, their opinions, all the different things. But when I'm waking up to serve the Lord, I want to step into the fullness of that and only let that be my validation, and not trying to seek all these other types of affirmations and all these other voices just to make me feel better about what I'm doing, or to make me feel good about even the things that I've done that are good things. I can't let certain titles and certain promotions and all these different things fuel the reason why I feel like a good person. I have to know who I am at the root of who I am because of what Christ has done and what he speaks over me, not anyone else. So in the same way I have to remind myself, I want to remind you, if you're struggling with this or you've walked through it in the past, that God truly is the best and only source of validation that you need in your life. And it's going to be the only sustainable source that you have. A lot of times I find myself going to so many different other things that were never actually sustaining me, and I was finding so much disappointment in it, or I was just kind of leeching on to different people and different things, saying I need validation, I need affirmation, and I was making myself look kind of insecure and weak, and not understanding that I can't find strength in that, I can't find joy in that, I can't find confidence in those things. I have to be addicted and attached and constantly plugged into the source of who God is for all of my validation, because he's the only one who can tell me who I truly am. And the best part about it is it doesn't depend on what I do. And I think a lot of times for other people and other circumstances, it does depend on what you do on a daily basis. But thank the Lord for his constant grace and his mercy, and how God always is trying to bring the best out of me and you. And so as we wrap up today's episode, I hope you guys are encouraged and just reminded to constantly keep seeking God as your source of validation. And know that I'm praying for you all, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. And until the next time, keep growing with God. See you guys.